and welcome to the Midday Show. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. I brought back the last names. I just realized that. We wanted to talk about some funny comments we saw the other day on the site. Coach K from Duke is retiring. I'm not too sad about it, but I'm sure other people are. We're going to talk about the Texas Heartbeat Bill. There was a senior student who gave a speech at a graduation around it. And then also, too, Biden came out and kind of said that the American education system isn't working, and brought up kind of a debate between the two of us of when should we actually graduate. So stay around for that as well. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm mostly doing well. I just want to tell the people that for the last hour, you and I have been going back and forth about some of these topics in show prep. And I've done everything I could to try to explain things to Jeff. So if during the next half hour or so he just babbles incoherently, I've done my best. I've tried to enlighten him, even though we're in this dark cave of a room. But I've done everything I could, and I just there is the light, and then some people just don't see it.
Have people ever called you a complainer? Has that ever been mentioned?
You know what's really happened to me is and we've talked about this with my joking and stuff, people, even when I try to complain, they don't buy it anymore. They're just he's not serious. And in Little League, I used to always say that the first day of practice, I would tell the kids, you don't even need to bring your gloves. We're just going to run till we puke. And now, after a while, the kids are yeah, he said that last year. We're not, it doesn't happen,
right.
And then, but
you probably had a kid or two that left their glove at home.
No, they're all, you always get a couple eyes, and then there's some kids no, he says that every year. It's he thinks he's funny. So, I don't know. I don't know. But no, I don't, and I don't really think I'm a complainer. But I'm just trying to enlighten the people because I don't want the people to be disappointed when they listen to you, hoping you make good points, and then they're what is Jeff talking about? Because that's what I've been saying for the last hour. What is Jeff talking about?
I'll try to be better. Speaking of complaints, speaking of things that don't make any sense, we have this thing where we love people who participate on the site at NorthcentralPa.com. We love people who comment, who engage, who who share. Honestly, they really are the blood, the lifeline of what we do here.
The blue blood?
Yeah, the blue blood, sure. However, Mark and I have noticed that there is a special type of follower that we have, a special type of reader who loves to comment, but not actually read the article or the thing that they are talking about before they comment on it. And you happen to notice it on one of the stories we just most recently published.
Well, yeah, one of the fascinating things about having the site for 2 years is, we notice how much, and not just here, but everywhere, there's so much vitriol and there are people that make very lucid, intelligent conversations. In some chats, you get very enlightened opinions from both sides. You actually learn stuff. And then there's some people that are just so full of anger and hate, and it would be a very sad way to live, but they think coming on any website, not just ours, and just spewing this, and it makes them feel better about themselves for some reason, telling why everyone else is stupid and everyone else is better. But away from that, everybody on every chat room, on Facebook, they all deal with that. The thing that we have found here that has most fascinated us is people that make comments and criticisms about articles, and we're but we said that in the article. It's in there. And after a while, you realize that people criticize the articles and the contents thereof, and they didn't even read it. And we did this story the other day. Yes. We joked about it on here, and then we printed a story about the bobcat, bobcat that got loose in, I don't even remember, West Scranton?
I believe it was West Scranton High School.
So they send the kids home. They see it on a surveillance camera, and the people are oh my God, that's a bobcat. And then as they realized it was an exotic house cat. Right. That was missing from the neighborhood, and it had a chip in it. Once they found it, they took the cat home, and they're oh, look, Fluffy, you're here. Even though we know the cat's name wasn't Fluffy, but I don't remember it. But so as we're discussing this, and we're kind of researching it, it was called a clouded jack cat. Yeah, was the official name of this breed. Yeah. So as you're oh, well, I'll search through and pull up, and we'll put in the picture a clouded jack cat. Yes. Well, people started making comments of the picture that you put. Correct. Or that's not a bobcat. We're like, no kidding, because there wasn't a bobcat in the school. So we put a picture of the breed of cat that really was in the school. Correct. Then we had other people who commented and says, WNEP had an actual picture of the cat. Well, there are things called laws, and we didn't have a photographer there, and we don't have the rights to just take their picture and use it. People think like on the internet, you can just take anything and you can just use it. So sure. We didn't use the picture of the actual cat because it would have been, there's a word for it, it's illegal for us to steal someone else's picture and use it without permission. That's why the newspapers and all these throughout the days that always sent out photographers. So it was just, it's funny the criticisms that you get of people who are like, well, they used the real cat. We can't steal their picture. Well, that's not even a bobcat. We know it's not a bobcat. Read the article. There was no bobcat involved anywhere. So I don't know. It has been shocking to us how many times we sat here and laughed and like, do you see that people are like, well, why did you mention this? And we're like, we did mention this. It's in the third paragraph. You have to read it to actually know what was mentioned. So anyway, that's the end of my diatribe.
Do you feel better?
I feel much better.
I enjoy I enjoy the comments. I always get like a kick out of them. It was fascinating though to see this one. This was one of those unique articles where you really got a feel for how few people will actually click on the article and just start commenting, because it was kind of amazing how many people just said that's not a bobcat. And all they had to do was click open the story and read it, and they would have known within the first paragraph that the actual cat was not a bobcat. So sometimes it's harder to tell who's actually clicked on the story, who hasn't. This was just one of those stories where it was very, very apparent who had read the story and who had not read the story before they commented on it.
The thing that was great too to me is I think the whole story was 3 paragraphs long.
Yeah.
Because the whole summation is they thought there was a bobcat in the school, so they sent all the kids home. They realized it wasn't a bobcat. This is the kind of cat it was, and it's a house cat. And they found it was one of those chips that they have that vets put in, and they found the owner and they sent the cat home. That's the whole story. The whole article was probably 120 words long. Right. And plus, even in the headline, bobcat was in quotes.
Yes.
So you knew reading it that you should have known. I don't know, but people were.
I love our readers. I love our readers,
and we love and we also love the readers who don't read.
Yes, I love them. Coach K is going to step down before we spin the wheel today. Even if you're not a huge sports fan, even if you're not the biggest college basketball fan, most people know who Coach Krzyzewski is. He was the coach at Duke for, I want to say, 4 decades now. I think we've reached
late 70s, wasn't it?
I think we've reached over 4 decades now. And he is going to step down. However, there's different talking points about here. Obviously, we could talk about the basketball aspect of like what happens to Duke, how good of a coach was Coach K, all those different things. But the more fascinating topic that kind of like went beyond basketball was his idea. He is going to do a victory lap. And they're coming off a season where they didn't make the tournament. It was an unsuccessful season, even by like a mediocre program standards. It was an unsuccessful season. And the idea of him kind of doing this victory lap and announcing it, I think there's a lot of like emotional perspective. There's a lot of like who is it really for? Those types of things to kind of get in. So I'll let you kind of divvy into it and we'll go back.
Well, yeah, this is one of the things that we had bannered around, and we're not talking right or wrong, or we're not, because there's all different perspectives. But in the same year, in Carolina Duke, which is the most famous college basketball rivalry in history, the schools are 8 miles apart or 12 miles apart. They are right there.
Right.
And they both had legendary, longtime Hall of Fame coaches. And within months of each other, they both decide to retire. Roy Williams has a press conference, and he's like, I quit. I'm done. I'm moving on. Hubert Davis is in charge. Not that he got to now, he didn't get to name that, but that's what they did. Krzyzewski is like, I'm done too after next year. And there are famous athletes who have done victory laps. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the first one that came to my mind. Right. And everywhere he went, the last time he went to Milwaukee, the last time he went to Indiana, the last time he went to Portland, they all had this ceremony for him. Mariano Rivera with the Yankees also did a victory lap. And I know in my mind, in my family, Mike Messina was like Roy Williams, that he was done. And I don't know when Roy Williams decided, but the story came out. Mike decided in spring training, told somebody, the trainer, there was somebody in the Yankee organization he told that was like the strength and conditioning coach, somebody that said, this is it, I'm not coming back. But he didn't tell anyone else. He didn't. And he's like, I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to deal with questions all year. I just wanted to play the year and be done. So the questions that you brought up is, we both brought up is why. And the question that you brought up then is, like, who is this doing good for? Is it helping the program, or is it in a way hurting the program that Roy Williams, who benefited who? Is North Carolina better off that Roy Williams just quietly walked away, or is Duke better off that Krzyzewski's going to take a lap?
Yeah, I think there's two fascinating ways to look at it, and the one is the one you just explained. I think there's an interpersonal way to look at this where there are people who want the questions, and there are people who want the roses, and there are people who, like, it really, really matters to them. And I think there are people who disappear in the night because, like, they don't want to deal with it, and they don't want to have to answer the questions. They don't want to be red in the face. They don't, and so I think it says a lot. And this isn't, I'm not condemning Coach K. I'm not saying Roy Williams is a better person. I'm just saying you can tell a lot about a person's personality based off of it. I also think that it says a lot about, like, who is it actually for? Who is this for? Is this for the Duke basketball program, or is this for Mike Krzyzewski? And the weird part about it is, like, I don't think Mike Krzyzewski is a selfish person, but it's hard to explain how this isn't for Mike Krzyzewski. Like, Duke basketball is taking a back seat in order for him to take this lap because they're not coming off a successful season. Like, they were bad last year. And I'm not saying that's all falls on to Mike Krzyzewski, but when they're really good, guess who gets the credit, Mark? Mike Krzyzewski.
The players.
No,
all the players.
Mike Krzyzewski gets the credit when Duke is really good. So when Duke is really bad, I think he should get most of the credit.
But I think there's an aspect too of like how emotionally for him to handle it. Like, if and again, this is how everyone's wired. Like, if I get to do it one more time, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to be at peace with it. Like, I've come to the decision.
But the important thing of what you're saying there is it's all he.
Correct.
And that's the point I'm making. Like, I'm not saying he's a selfish individual. I think he has given parts of himself to the program that he will never get back. So this isn't me condemning him, but I'm just saying, as a decision, it's hard to make the argument that it's not a selfish decision.
Not like
because it's a Coach K decision. And I made the point to you too, and I want to kind of tiptoe around it. Coach K has been there for over 4 decades. At this point, what rose has he not gotten? Like, what applause has he not gotten?
No.
Like, what has he not received from opposing fans, opposing players, media, whoever it is? He's won 5 national championships. What applause is he looking for? Like,
but is it? I mean, you're assuming though that it's all about applause.
But I'm assuming the point that if you're doing one more lap, what's going to happen? What's he going to do? What is he going to do that he hasn't already done?
Well, nothing. But
okay, so then what is it for?
Because it's his.
It's his.
Well, correct, but it's his career and it's his job, and
it's the Duke basketball program.
Well, and I get that, but like, let's change this to a place that we can all relate to. Like, teachers kind of go through this,
okay?
Because teachers have to announce their retirement at some point during the school year. Like, teachers can't just walk in on June 5th and say, I quit.
But it's not a great analogy because teachers aren't competing necessarily.
No, but there are teachers who come out at the beginning and say, this is going to be it, and this is going to be my last year. Or there are teachers who'll tell you, 2 years or 3 years ahead of time, like, this is when I'm going, and they can tell, like the sophomore class, they're like, I'm never going to have you because I'm out with the junior class. And then there are teachers who just kind of wait until the end and go out quietly. So this isn't just about.
I don't think that's a great analogy.
It's not great, but it's relatable. That there are, and anyone who's been around a school system, and you ask, there are teachers who have made it very big and announced and when they're going to go, and then there are people who go out quietly.
Sure.
But and it's a lot of it has to.
But they don't go school to school like talking to media.
But that's because their job doesn't take them to school.
Right. So it's a bad analogy. So
perfect. It's not perfect.
So before you gave your bad analogy, the point I was making is he's been there for 4 decades. There is no applause. There's no question. There's no medal. There's no trophy. There is nothing he hasn't seen or done that he is going to get to see or do in this victory lap. There isn't. However, if I'm a Duke basketball player, I get 4 years at Duke, not 4 decades. And for most of them, the good ones, they're there for a year, maybe 2. And so in this victory lap, it's not going to be about player A and player B. Their entire year at Duke is going to be about somebody who has decided to take a victory lap. And I'm trying to say this as politely as possible. What the guy has accomplished is amazing. And I don't think he's a selfish person. This decision, though, you cannot convince me that it is not a selfish decision. It is. You have people that are only going to get to make their mark on Duke for a year or 2. And this guy, apparently, for decades, was not enough to necessarily wrap your head around the idea of walking away. But it just doesn't make sense.
But there's other aspects where you're like, because this is his career. And
Correct.
Mike Krzyzewski's responsible for Mike Krzyzewski's career. He's not responsible for Duke. So there you could take the other side that there are lots of people and lots of businesses who retire early or switch jobs or do something that also hurts the company on the other side, and the person does it for selfish reasons. You can hurt the company by leaving too early.
Absolutely.
So when it comes
what does that have to do with this situation?
Because when it comes to anyone's personal decision, they have to do what's best for them.
And that's the point. That is literally the only point I'm making.
Well, then, but why is he a bad guy?
I don't think he's a bad guy. I've said that over and over again.
You're just saying his decision is not helping the program.
What I'm saying is it was not a Duke basketball program decision.
Correct. It was a Mike Krzyzewski
and what I'm
decision.
saying, in the tricky part when you are a college basketball coach, is that you ask kids to sacrifice for you. You ask them to play hard for the name that is on the front of their jersey. And you cannot convince me that this decision was made for the name on the front of the jersey. It was not. It was made for the, and you can decide it. It was made to wrap up the career of an individual. It was made for the mental health of an individual. However you want to sell it to me, that is fine. But it was a personal decision, and it was selfish when you look at it from the sense of the Duke basketball program. Now, players make selfish decisions. Players leave after 1 year to enter the draft. Players transfer. So I'm not saying he's like the only person in the history of Duke basketball to make a selfish decision. I'm just saying for 4 decades, it's sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice. Duke, Duke, Duke. And all I'm saying is that this one isn't necessarily a Duke program. The best argument that you have made to me is that he is Duke basketball. And if you want to combine those two things, if you want to say Duke basketball is Coach K, that's the closest argument you can make to me that this isn't a selfish decision. But it is.
Well, I mean, Duke basketball is Coach K. But I've always said this all along, and this is a whole different discussion. It's the problem with college sports. When you get amateur sports, whether you're talking Little League, AYSO, all the way up through high school,
right?
The kids are doing it for free, and the coaches are essentially doing it for free. I know you get paid some, but
Sure.
you're not coaching high school basketball for the money.
Sure.
And then when you jump all the way up to the pros, everybody's doing it for a career.
Sure.
When you get in college, you got kids who are doing it for the love of the game, and then you got coaches who are making millions and that they're busier or less busy from season to season. I would think grocery chains are pretty steady. But what would also be fascinating to see it, because as you talk to people who worked in grocery, and I have a couple friends who are managers of Weis Markets, how much busier they were during COVID because you couldn't eat out and people were stuck home and they're like, they would tell you a typical Friday, we do this. A Friday during COVID, we were doing 30% more than this.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was almost like the Postal Service during Christmas season when people are mailing Christmas cards.
Right.
That they're just like, this is typical, and then this is how much busier we are.
Sure.
And I'm sure the Postal Service because of Amazon, well, does Amazon use the Postal Service or do they use?
They have their own now. They have like their own fleet. It's crazy.
But still, with all the order at home stuff, how much busier those people got during COVID too. So, all right. Anyway, you have a winner.
I do have a winner. Today's random winner from the Midday Show Facebook group is Joanne Odell.
Very nice. Joanne Odell. Let me see.
Joanne Odell.
Joanne Odell. I feel like Vanna White a little bit now. I was thinking that.
A little bit.
Not quite as attractive, I would say. Probably not. Do you know how long she's been doing? I was in high school.
So 50 years?
50, 60 years. Because one of the big scandals was, as she was an up-and-coming model, I don't know how she got that gig, but there was a Playboy spread of her, but I don't think she was naked.
Okay.
I think she just did like, sexy, risque, artsy pictures.
Okay.
But back in the heyday, it was like, Vanna did Playboy, and she was this thing, and here she is, but she's got to be in her 60s.
Okay.
And she's been there forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
Oh.
It's a good gig.
She's in some rap songs.
Is she?
Yeah.
Rap one for me.
Ride With Me.
No. I want you to rap it. I don't want you.
Something about hopping flights with Vanna White. It's a Nelly lyric.
You're not really spitting it very well.
I got to be in a car. I got to be like, I got to have the beat bouncing in the back.
Thank you to Weis Markets. $25 gift card, $50 gift card, $100 gift card. Also to Eat and Run Catering. The break room, which is right here. Here's Eat and Run Catering, and here's the Moon and Raven. What am I this week? I'm 2 for 3 this week, right?
You are.
Today's
2 for 3
Thursday.
this week so far.
Can I go 3 for 5 again? I probably missed today and put all the pressure on Friday. So sorry, Joanne. I'm not feeling it today, but we'll see. Here's the $100 gift card right there. Keep your eye on that. $100 for Weis Markets. Let's see how we do. $50 for Weis Markets. All I do is win. All I do is win. You know who I'm like? Duke basketball. All I do is win.
You good?
For those of you who don't know, Jeff's a Carolina fan. So
I'm a Carolina fan. I thought I handled that well.
There's an inner hatred of the Blue Devils.
I thought I handled that well. Texas Heartbeat Bill or When We Should Graduate? I feel like When We Should Graduate was a better conversation we were having.
You only want to do one?
Well, I'm just saying we should start with the one we definitely want to talk about.
Oh,
do you understand what I'm saying?
Either way, I do want to say this before I let you go on the Duke basketball. Have you ever been to Durham?
Yes.
So you've been there in the crowd when they're cheering, go to hell, Carolina,
not in the crowd, but I've been in the gym.
Oh, but not for a game.
Not for a game.
Oh, well, I was there twice when Duke played Maryland, and one time it was like the Shane Battier era and the Stevie Franchise era when I think Duke was 2 and Maryland was 4. Like, it was a big deal.
Right.
And right in the middle of the game, they start chanting, "Go to hell, Carolina, go to hell," even though they're not even playing Carolina, just because they do. So it was neat. It was neat stuff. Okay.
I feel like Penn State does that with Michigan. Doesn't Penn State? Penn State has something about a better than. It has something to do with it's still better than being Michigan.
The neat thing, I say neat. The interesting thing about like Duke and Carolina, it's them. They hate each other. The Hatfields and the McCoys. Penn State hates Ohio State, and Penn State hates Michigan. But Michigan hates Ohio State, and Ohio State hates Michigan. Like, that is the rivalry. Penn State's just kind of like on the outskirts.
Oh, be careful.
It's like, it is though. It's like when I lived in Baltimore and like the Oriole fans hated Yankee fans and they hated Yankees. And I was like, the Yankee fans hate the Red Sox and the Red Sox hate the Yankees. Like, there are those natural rivalries, and you can't, like Penn State doesn't have one like Ohio State, Michigan, like Duke, Carolina.
Isn't that Pittsburgh's fault?
It could be. It could be Pitt's fault.
Because I feel like it's the opposite. I feel like Pittsburgh hates Penn State, but Penn State doesn't even think about Pittsburgh. I should state for the record too, I'm not a Penn State fan. This is just funny
because I have my Pitt shirt on here, and because my daughter goes to Pitt. It's amazing how you become a fan when you have a kid go there. But I always get nervous, like when I wear this out, that people are going to swear at me in the street and stuff because it's not Penn State. But I actually get people that stop me, and it's like this cult that they're like, "Oh my gosh, my husband went there," or that was the last time I wore it. 2 people stopped me. One of them said their husband went there, and one of them was like, "Oh, I thought I was gonna." So anyway. So what were we talking about now? Are we talking about heartbeats? Or are we talking about when should we graduate?
We can go with let's jump. Let's go to when we should graduate. So Biden came out and he essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but he is under the belief that K through 12 education is not working. He is calling for a graduation, something that would work along the lines of like graduating when you're 16. So regardless of like what the grades would be or how the classes would work or how many years you go to school, the concept would be is that you're done with high school at 16. And then from 16 to 18, there's different thoughts and theories. One of them is the idea of like you would go into vocational programs, you would go into community college programs, something that is more directed towards your interest or something that kind of gets you down the road to higher education. And then there's also the thought too of like being done at 16, you're not an adult, but there are certain aspects of your life where now you legally can drive if you have your license. I know there's a lot of work laws based around the idea of being 15 or 16 years old. So the idea is kind of moving on after the age of 16, throwing your hat in the air instead of 18.
So, well, here's my thought. Without knowing much about the details of the bill, just as you and I have discussed it, there is a lot of high school that is a waste of time. That and I don't debate that from an academic side. There's stuff that like you can certainly do without. However, to send a 16-year-old you can't send a 16-year-old to college. There's lots of 18 or 19-year-olds that aren't ready to be out and in college. I'd initially thought when you first said it, I thought the plan was that they take like academic courses up until through their sophomore year. Then like junior and senior year, they do more of a VOTEC for everyone to do more of a VOTEC so they can learn like not only basic life skills, but handy skills, because we're short on carpenters, we're short on plumbers, we're short on things like that. Sure. So you can take these people who have no training in this, like the nerdy academic kids, and actually show them how to do some of this stuff so they can do it themselves. But you're saying the plan is not like that. The plan is you graduate and then we're going to figure out what college you're going to go to at 17.
So the idea of it would be like a education system through grade 14. So the concept is like they want to have free pre-kindergarten. Then you have your kindergarten up to when you would graduate, which would be like 15 or 16. And then the idea is to try to figure out a way to have 2 years of like post-high school education, whether it be through like free community college, a vocational system, something along those lines, rather than just like our standard educational system of going up until you're 18.
It is. There's parts of it that aren't stupid. There's
parts of it that I like the concept. There's other parts of it that I think you're about to hint at that like I'm not really sure who it benefits or what the purpose of it is.
Correct. And there is, when as I see my kids going through school, my oldest is a freshman in college, my youngest is in 8th grade, and I have a girl in between. And I see that like they're taking Spanish now in 8th grade, and we didn't. They're jamming the math classes earlier than we did when we were there. So there are changes to throw some of these things on the kids younger and younger. I just look at, and I think you ask anyone who's in education, whether it's high school education or college education, that so much of it has to do with the kid's maturity level as to whether they succeed or fail, independent of their IQ level. So I'm scared of this aspect of taking 16-year-olds like you're done. Because if you graduate at 16, that implies that you can go do whatever you want at 16 and a half. And that these kids just aren't ready for a lot of the real world. But, you not only did you go through the public system, you taught in the public school system, there are practical life hands-on things. There are so many dudes that should be forced to take a cooking class. That there are so many guys who should be forced to, like, can you hang drywall? Can you refloor a bathroom? Like, things that aren't rocket science, but these kids have gone through lives and have never been shown it. And whereas a couple generations ago, everybody got it passed down from their dads and their uncles and their grandfathers, and it doesn't happen that way anymore.
My fear with the vocational side of it is just like interest. I think it's fantastic if you're interested in it, right? But the problem is if I'm not interested in it, and now it's to me it's the same thing as high school. So if you give me 2 more years of high school, but I don't give a crap about what you're showing me, what is the difference if you send me to a vocational and I don't give a crap about what you're showing me? The part that I liked about it, and this is 100% putting myself in my own shoes, I don't know how it would have worked for other people. What I would have appreciated graduating at 16 is I would have had the opportunity to possibly get some type of minimal job while living at home with my parents, join the workforce, save money, learn about the world, understand how do taxes work when I'm 16, 17, understand how much effort it takes to bring home a paycheck. Now, all of a sudden, I've had 2 years to live in the real world under my parents' supervision in my parents' house. And now when I'm 18, do I want to continue down that road on my own? Or now do I look at higher education as a means of now I think this is what I would actually rather do. And now I'm going to invest in myself and I'm going to take higher education courses down the correct path instead of being 18 fresh out of high school and having no clue what I actually wanted to do. So that to me is a very beneficial way of looking at this. I don't think that's how they're looking at this. The negative side of this and how I felt when I first read it, it feels like it's a way to kind of funnel people into the higher education system even sooner than we already are. And to me, that is not beneficial necessarily to the kids. It is beneficial to a whole system that I think a collection of us already agree isn't the greatest system that we have.
And it's losing people right and left.
Yes.
Enrollment is way down.
Now, they're saying that they want the programs to be free, whether it's community college or the vocational programs. But I still think you're funneling them into a system that we've already shown puts people in debt. Most people will never actually finish. And most people, when they get out, they have a degree that doesn't even function in society anyway. So that's the negative side of it. That's my fear. I think there's things people could do after the age of 16 that would be beneficial. I just don't know if putting them into higher education right away is that answer.
I agree with you. What would be fascinating is to take very lucid, worldly intelligent people who've been in public education for years, and they would never have this conversation on the record probably, but off the record, what would you fix about it? But one of the other aspects that I've always gone back to is the biggest aspect to me of the public school system is the ability to deal with other people, whether it's deal with teachers, whether it's deal with coaches, whether it's deal with friends. And because in life, you have to be able, you're gonna have bosses you don't like, you're gonna have coworkers you don't like, you're gonna have people that you love that, and that's one of the, how to meld in with people who are very similar to you, very different than you, how do we accept our roles? Because whether you're an athlete, whether you're in the spring musical, there's only one lead. And whether you're a supporter, there's only one star player, there's only one leading scorer, there's only one quarterback, there's only one starting pitcher. Yeah. So there's an aspect of life that comes into that, hey, you didn't get the lead in the musical, but you got this part. And are you going to accept it? Are you going to thrive in it? And are you going to do the best you can and be part of the group? Or are you going to go home and pout because things didn't go your way?
So you're implying that we would lose out on that if you remove
if you take 2 years of it
off.
Yes, there is that aspect of it that would be less.
It is a great conversation because there are concepts I love about it. Like there is a scenario where like if I backtracked life and I was able to like really understand how the real world worked from the age of 16 to 18, like really like dive into it under my household, under my parents' supervision, I think it could have been beneficial, and then would have been able to, when I'm like 17, 18, 19, 20, decide the route or path I want to go, whether it was higher education or staying on the path I started on. There's also parts of it too, though, like it just feels like you're sucking. It just feels like people who aren't going to get to make the choices for themselves. Because let's be honest, how many 16-year-olds really get to make their own decisions? Like truly are making their own choices.
And rightfully so.
And yes, oh yeah, and I get that. And it feels like you're just kind of leading them down a path where like they're becoming part of taxes sooner, they're becoming part of higher education sooner. It almost just feels like a scheme to get everybody in 2 years sooner. It feels that way to me a little bit.
You could be right. I mean, one of the other aspects is that, and I've joked about it here, that we're the only generation that's we were dumber than our parents, and now we're dumber than our kids because the world is so technological and they know. And you're not quite in that generation. I'm clearly stuck in that generation where my kids know so much more about technology than I do. And we've had the discussion here when we're looking to hire someone because we are all web-based. And we've had the discussions, well, we should talk to a university. And I said, we don't want to talk to a university because they don't know. We need to talk to a 21-year-old who's self-taught, who doesn't want to go to college, who's like, I already know this stuff anyway, because they can do it better than they've been taught at college. So it is a changing world. And I kind of applaud Biden for at least opening the discussion that says we may be able to do this better. I'm just not sure that this is the best way to do it.
The part, to build off of what you just said, the part that I don't understand is why not fix high school?
It's a valid point.
Like instead of taking 2 years of it away to throw kids kind of, I don't want to say throw them to the wolves, but to like throw them in higher education.
To throw them to the Bobcats?
Sure, to throw them to the Bobcats. Why not? Then let's change the way we do high school. Let's teach things that make sense in the world of 2021 and where we're heading and what we want people to do. That would have been a much more, I don't want to say sustainable solution, but to me, that would have been like the first step. Would have been like, hey, let's fix high school. And if we can't fix high school, then clearly this is a system that we need to just step away from. To just come out and say like, we're doing 2 less years of school because we think it's important people get into higher education. And I just don't see that. I think there are ways to fix high school that benefit 16, 17, 18-year-olds where now, like to your point, they're still able to develop social aspects. They're still able to be under the supervision of their guardians. They're still able, and to be honest, like they're still able to be a kid.
Right.
Like people live to be 70, 80, 90 years old right now. Like
we have enough adult life.
They've got 50, 60 years to do this stuff. Why are we trying to throw them into higher education a little sooner? And then I don't know, let's fix high school instead of just like.
No, it's a novel concept. It really is. And I remember when like talking to you about it, and the more I've thought about it, there should be classes in high school that teach Adobe.
Yes.
And just like, forget about all this. I understand that there's a group of people that need advanced physics and world lit and stuff like that.
I can tell you, right, not to cut you off, I can tell you off the top of my head, all the Adobe suites, anything writing, anything that has to do with like creative thinking, anything that has to do with research, anything that there should be classes just called research. And all it is you have to figure out what is the source of something. Where did that come from? What are the two sides of something? Like in 5 minutes, you and I could come up with courses in a public high school environment that would significantly help society more 5 years from now than some of the stuff that we're still doing.
And we're not sponsored by Adobe in any way.
We are not.
It's just an aspect.
We are not.
Nope, I'm with you. Should we save Texas Heartbeat till tomorrow?
Let's save Texas Heartbeat until tomorrow. Real quick before we go, we can jump on some comments because we appreciate you guys saying some stuff. We usually start from the bottom. Look out for Google, Apple, Amazon, etc., taking over the higher education world with their market-specific certification programs. Amazon's kind of already jumping on that. Amazon has certifications, and Google as well, for like everything. It's that's crazy.
That's an interesting point. That's a topic on its own right there. But yes, watch out for Amazon and Apple taking over everything.
Yes.
And Google. Yes.
Vicky, they should teach basic finances, checkbook, credit card debt, etc. Finance classes should be automatic. Like the fact that you don't take, like the way you take math courses and English courses and all that stuff, the fact that there is not like finance 100, finance 200, finance in high school is insane.
I've said this before, and I was a math major, math secondary education, that just the simple concept of whatever you have, it gets bigger. If you have money in the bank because of interest, it gets bigger. Sure. If you have debt because of interest, it gets bigger. So you either have a pile of money that's growing or you have a hole that's growing. So just that simple concept of like finances 101.
You know what I've always said should be a basic course in like either end of middle school or beginning of high school, like in that 7th, 8th, 9th grade range. There should be a course that's just what stuff costs. That should be the whole course. It's just so one class, all you talk about for 30 minutes is how much a car actually costs. That's it. And how much does a household actually cost? How much does higher education actually cost? Every day you should just walk in and sit down, and all you should talk about is how much something actually costs you in the real world.
See, the thing that I always thought is that there should be a mandatory, like sophomore year, there should be a mandatory psychology class called relationships. And it's not about, it would obviously cover boyfriend, girlfriend, but it covers how to deal with your parents. It covers how to deal with your teachers because you're going to have a boss. And in your life, I think the better you can handle relationships with multiple people, the more smoothly and enjoyable your life is going to be. And imagine when you grew up in a household, the only thing you know about marriage and child rearing is what you saw, not the only thing you know, but you mostly saw from your parents. And if your parents didn't get along, and if your parents didn't, or if your parents were whatever, because we learned so much of what to do and what not to do, but to have people sit down and say, listen, this is how you treat an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend. It's okay to be cordial to them. It's probably better to be cordial to them. This is how you treat a coach. And this is what the coach is looking at you.
Sure.
And this is how the teachers are looking at you. So I always thought that should be a class.
Any betterment or fulfillment class should strongly be considered. The fact that they're in the high school curriculum, there's really no like there was home ec. And then you would have like your basic like sex ed classes, like
health. We had
your health and so But the idea that like there's not any like betterment or fulfillment classes is kind of crazy.
I agree.
Let's do, here we go. This is the one. Hey, what time is it? It's 12:46, and then everybody yells, and Michigan still sucks. Have you ever heard them do this?
No.
That's the cheer. I knew there was something there about Michigan every single time. So there. Whatever time it is, Michigan still sucks.
Unfortunately for Penn State basketball fans, we are both a fan of Michigan's new coach, and we don't think they're going to suck at basketball for a while.
No, they're going to be pretty good. I think
Juwan is the right guy for the job.
I think that they are set. Heather says my computer freezes way too much. Heather, you are not incorrect. I'll see what I can do, Heather. I'm trying.
No, I can't do that. I can't. I'm just the cohort. I am the cohort for a reason.
No. Joe Garrison, the teacher example given by Mark is actually great because what we are really talking about is allowing people, students, the opportunity to say goodbye. And that is not a selfish decision. While I don't disagree with what Joe is saying, there are lots of people who find other ways to say goodbye in a different manner. There are coaches who walk away and find ways to say goodbye. There are students and fans who find other ways to say goodbye to people. You don't need a victory lap to say goodbye.
I get it, but it doesn't mean it's right or wrong for each individual person.
Joe's statement is not incorrect. I'm just saying that's not the only way to say goodbye. There's lots of ways for fans and students and people to say goodbye to Coach K.
And I understand.
Doesn't need to be a full year victory.
I understand your point that a teacher analogy isn't exactly the same, but the reason I think it works to a degree
you touch so many people's lives.
Well, and because a school year has a start and a finish much different than most jobs.
Sure.
You have an accountant who's like April 15th is like, but a school year has a very finite start and a very finite end, unlike other jobs that just kind of go on perpetually.
And I also recognize, like, Coach K has touched a lot of people's lives. Like, I'm not saying there are not people who would want the opportunity to say thank you to him. I know they are out there. I'm just saying a full year victory lap doesn't mean they wouldn't get the opportunity.
Just think of how many people's lives he touched in Kentucky when Leitner caught the ball, went pump fake turn and threw it.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you think?
Possibly. Don't need to read to get a top fan badge. I thought that was pretty hilarious. So if you don't want to read the stories and you want to comment, you can get a top fan badge.
Very nice.
And then we've talked about this before. I was at through Messenger for my address and it stated I want a t-shirt. So far, nothing arrived.
Yeah.
We have the t-shirts are printed. They're on their way. For our 100th episode, we are doing like a mass shipping out. So if you have been a winner in the last 9, I think we're on episode 94.
Something like that.
I think we're on episode 94. So
we have a trade deal with them, and they're like doing business. And of course, just like everyone else, they were swamped and they were understaffed and all this stuff. And we're like, listen, ours is like, make your money. Get ours done whenever you get them, because we're just giving out free t-shirts to people who want. So as they worked with us and we worked with them, and now they're done. And now they've been done for like a week. And I keep saying I got to go pick them up because they're not like, I got to go pick them up. But the t-shirts are coming. So thank you for your patience, and your prizes are coming. One day we're just going to sit in here for a weekend and just stuff envelopes.
Yeah, that's all we're going to do. Last one. Matt Clark said, you mean like basic math? Yeah, I mean basic math, but you have to apply it to real world, because here's the issue. The problem is, and I think I get what Matt is saying here. The problem is, like, once you join the real world, none of it is basic math, because everybody's trying to make $1 off of you. It no longer becomes basic. It becomes, do you understand how to apply basic math to the finances in the world around you that's trying to swallow you whole? I think that's the difference.
And I would even go as far as to, like, when you're spending money, like the psychology of why are you spending it?
Sure.
So, like, just to be careful of when you buy this, it's going to make you feel better for, whatever. But, as you and I, we've joked about this back to the Valentine's Day. My ex and I used to, we thought Valentine's Day was this concoction. It was stupid. And we had a $6 limit. And we would hear these stories about people who are spending hundreds of dollars because they have to, because it's Valentine's Day. And we would kind of come up with these creative things. I'd be searching through the $5 CD bins to buy something that I knew she would like that she didn't have, and buying candy bars and it's things like that. But there are just spending money doesn't make you happy, and you see the shopaholics and the people who have clothes. So just the aspect of that, and at the end of the day, you bought this, but now you can't pay your rent. And where does your mortgage payment balance out in this? And
dude, I'm telling you, the cost of stuff.
I agree.
I wish when I was 15, I truly understood the cost of stuff. And the other thing too, like, if I'm 15 and I understand the cost of stuff, who I'm going to be a lot nicer to? Like,
your parents.
I'm going to be so much nicer to the guardian or the person who's looking out for me. And when I receive something, whether it's from a guardian or a teacher or whoever it is, I'm going to be so much more understanding or receptive to it, because I know how much it costs. Like, just cost. I just think kids should be taught when they're 14, 15, 16, how much something actually costs.
And I know no one's listening anymore because we've babbled for a long time, but no, I go back to the relationships. One of the things that I would stress, and now that I'm a parent and I've stressed this to my kids, is as a teenager, you have no idea how much you can hurt your parents' feelings. And because we're just like this, well, the parents are here and they're the wet blankets and they're this, and like, you have no idea how much teenagers really say things and really hurt. And now that I'm an adult and I have all these friends and acquaintances who have teenagers, like, we share these stories about some of the mean, like, hurtful things that kids do or say. And they have no idea. When I was when I was a teenager, my parents had no feelings. I never even took it into consideration.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's do that. We have a heck of a show coming up if we're really doing it, because we sat on Donald Trump yesterday. We sat on the Texas heartbeat bill today. So maybe we'll touch those subjects tomorrow, and we'll see what else we can come up
If you
with.
think you're man enough.
Yeah, we'll see.
You're afraid, I know.
Afraid of which one?
No, the heartbeat bill, I just need to learn more about. I don't really, you read about, I had no idea what I was talking about.
I thought the graduation age was fascinating.
I think it is.
We could have talked about that for 2 hours.
I think it is, because there's so many avenues to it.
Yes.
And the thing about, I mean, there's teachers that are involved, but because everyone kind of has we've either been through it, we've been through it, our kids have been through it, people have worked in it, like everyone has an opinion on it, and it's somewhat of a lucid opinion.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. Thanks for watching the Midday Show. Thank you to Weis Markets. Be sure to go there for all your grocery needs.
I might go there for lunch because I'm starving.
It's about that time. And thank you to NorthcentralPa.com. Be sure to go there for all your local news. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for reading everything that we have there.
Even the people that don't read.
Even the people, even the followers that don't read. Even the commenters with their top fan badge that don't read.
Fan, no read.
We love all of you. Thank you guys very much. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. Thanks for watching the Midday